So I want to talk about Nissan today because a lot of people seem to think that the Infiniti G35 and G37 in America is not a Nissan Skyline. And this sort of kind of irritates me at times. So I just want to clear things up so you understand that it definitely is a Skyline. It's just not a GT-R. Nissan's decision to merge the Skyline model line with shared platforms was fundamentally driven by cost reduction strategy, market expansion, and profit maximization. The pivot began under the leadership of Carlos Ghosn, who, upon joining the struggling automaker through Renault-Nissan alliance, launched the aggressive restructuring plans known as the Nissan Revival Plan. The company had been suffering from unsustainable debt and operational inefficiencies, so Carlos implemented a business model that prioritized eliminating bespoke development where platform sharing could achieve scale. So every model didn't have its own chassis that was longer or wider or shorter. It was more about cutting a lot of bespoke chassis out in Nissan, bespoke meaning one-off or unique, and making a chassis or frame that could be used for multiple cars, obviously maximizing profits so you don't have to change the chassis, but only body panels and certain suspension parts. The Skyline, which has historically thrived as a large Japanese market-centric engineering flagship, was repositioned into a global luxury sport brand strategy to widen sales volume, reduce parts complexity, and increase profit margins. Instead of continuing to build the next generation Skyline on a unique standalone chassis, Nissan combined its development with existing architecture already being engineered for the 350Z and the new global Infiniti line, allowing the company to spend more on R&D across multiple models rather than funding one low-volume, highly bespoke Japanese sports sedan coupe. This approach cut development costs, increased supply chain leverage, and maximized profits by delivering a new kind of Skyline that fit luxury performance global markets, particularly North America, where the G35 name replaced the domestic branding but not the lineage. While this strategy did succeed in stabilizing and ultimately saving Nissan financially, it also ended the era of the Skyline being a uniquely engineered, standalone, motorsport adjacent platform, marking a philosophical divide between the pre-Ghosn Skyline identity and the post-global reconstruction and restructuring Skyline. Now I want to make it clear too, the Skyline has always shared platforms to some extent. There were other models too as well. So we have to always remember that. And like I said before, the GT-R and the Skyline name have split because Nissan wanted the GT-R to be more hardcore and the Skyline to be more of a platform that could be used across different models. And this is why they split. And this is still a Skyline. Skyline's always had GTS models that were just rear-wheel drive. And they did use the same platform, but the Skyline platforms of the past weren't as comfortable as the G platforms or the V35 Nissan Skyline. Therefore, it would be very hard to put an Infiniti badge on a Nissan Skyline in America and sell it for what people come to expect from Infiniti as far as ride quality and comfort. You guys got to realize this is also a business, so we have to make sure that the people that buy luxury cars keep buying Infinitis, and you can't have a luxury brand if you're selling sports car suspension overall and harshness in that car. Carlos himself would eventually fall from the corporation grace. After years of being praised as one of the most influential automotive turnaround executives in history, he was arrested in 2018 by Tokyo District Public Prosecutor's Office and dramatically accused of financial misconduct, including underreporting income and misusing company funds. While waiting for trial, his story would escalate into legendary status, and he would flee Japan in a converted operation to Lebanon. Though legally presumed innocent until proven guilty, He was widely alleged by prosecutors and media to have used company assets for personal benefit, and the controversy became one of the largest executive scandal narratives in automotive history. The older Skyline generations, including the famous R32, R33, and R34, were built on their own independent chassis platforms, but this was never true for every historical Skyline. While the GT-R trims were on highly reinforced and specialized versions of the E-B&R architecture, many non-GT-R Skylines, like the GTSs or GTTs, throughout history already shared chassis families with other Nissan sedans and coupes of their respective production eras. What made the R32 through R33 GT-R special was not that the Skyline had its own unique chassis, but that the GT-R program was a motorsports homologation-derived, turbo-focused, and significantly bespoke even when its base stamping traces overlap with other Nissan sub-platform families. By the V35 generation, which is known as the G35 or G37 Infiniti in America, but V35 in Japan, right? It wasn't an R35, now it's a V35. The GT-R became its own car, which is an R35. This is a V35 Skyline. Nissan would fully formalize platform sharing through the FM architecture used by the Nissan 350Z and Infiniti luxury line, which was later extended and mildly updated in the G37 in America Infiniti, which would be the V36 Skyline, Nissan Skyline in Japan. Unlike the previous GT-R adjacent Skylines, the V35 Skyline and V36 were engineered instead as a luxury sport grand touring platform, meaning Nissan no longer justified the cost of giving the car a fully independent chassis program, especially when sales volumes outside of Japan demanded shared part logistics and reduced regional production complexity. The G35 and G37 Infinitis did not receive a bespoke chassis because Nissan's new global strategy valued modularity, production scale, and international profitability over the low-volume Japanese engineering specialization that had defined the Skyline's image to enthusiasts. The Z platform was chosen as a shared foundation because its longevity, even though it would never match the reinforced supercar level all-wheel drive drivetrain and independent rear transaxle layout later used in the Nissan GT-R R35. The G35 and G37 shared the Z chassis family because it was financially efficient, dynamically aligned with the intended GT class, and allowed Nissan to unify luxury and sports development under one R&D cycle. What people are missing here is that the R35 Nissan GT-R is not a Skyline anymore in a traditional sense, even though I still believe, like a lot of people, maybe until a certain time in history, that this still is a Skyline to us. It still has the taillights, but what makes it different is now the transmission is in the rear of the car and not in the middle of the car. And there are a couple of other differences. And the G35 and G37 are traditional Nissan Skylines because traditional Nissan Skylines are rear-wheel drive with engine in front, transmission in middle, and also outside of the R32, 33, and 34 GT-Rs, every Nissan Skyline, especially the GTTs and the GTS models, were shared with other platforms, Nissan cars in Japan. So to put this to rest, even if you don't like that there was never a GT-R version for the G35 Infiniti and G37 Infiniti, or the V35 Nissan Skyline in Japan, or the V37 Skyline in Japan, it was still a real Nissan Skyline.